So this is the Mock Draft 1.0 episode where we're going to be running through the top 14 picks of this year's draft and seeing if we can make sense of, what the top teams that are in the lottery are thinking about and how they might approach this draft. But before we get into that, this episode is powered by Cross Country Mortgage. I am very proud to announce that I have a new sponsor for the show. And you're looking at them. It's me. I reached one of my long-term goals of becoming a mortgage loan originator, and I'm proud to say that I've joined the top mortgage company in the United States, Cross Country Mortgage. So if you're interested in finding out what your home buying power is, or if you're interested in investing into real estate, there's a link below for a 30-minute free consultation that you can book at your own convenience, whatever time it is, and we'll chat and we'll figure out what the next steps are for you. So if you're looking for something like that, give me a call. And with all that down, let's get into it. Si vis pacem, parabellum. As Winston Scott of John Wick said, if you want peace, you have to prepare for war. And what better place to prepare for war in the NBA than the NBA draft? This is where you can really draft, your top guys. And if you look across the playoffs right now, probably with the exception of Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, maybe those two or three guys, all the other players have been drafted by their teams. They're heavy hitters, they're big stars, usually come through the draft. And sometimes it's not going to be a great draft year like this year where they say there's no clear cut pick. But all that being said, you never know what you will find in the draft. So let's get right into it. First, let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks. Very interesting to see what they do here. Just because they have the number one pick, I think in a normal year where you had like a Zion or someone who was a clear cut number one, you would look to kind of pivot into a new direction as an organization. But this year, being a year where there isn't a really highlighted athlete that's a projected first unanimous first pick, it's interested to see what they do. So I'm just going to play around in this world where they keep Trae Young, they keep DeJounte Murray, or at least one of them perhaps, and they go ahead and draft the first guy available, the best guy available, which probably is Alex Sarr. He's a great player to put next to your number one guy or number two guys. He can be easily the third best guy on a team or second best. I mean, we'll see how he transfers over to the league. I really like him. I think he's a great complementary player. Now, as we kind of go through this draft, I think it's interesting to point out, it's like, I think, there's two approaches that you can have in this draft, and that's either go for the best player available, which I feel like the San Antonio Spurs have been kind of doing for the past 3 or 4 years, and most of the best player available, best upside. Um, and then there's the other route where you try to fit a need for your team. And I think for the previous years, the Spurs have been drafting best player. But I think you do that until you have your number one guy, which the San Antonio Spurs do. So I think, in this draft, you have teams that are going to be doing both. I think this isn't a draft where it's like, man, there's so much talent in the top 10 that you need to draft the best player available and put him in with your team and just see how it works. I think this year it's kind of like you have to pick and choose a little bit. So if I'm Washington at number two, Washington is in a spot where I know they drafted Koulibaly, right? I think that's how you say his name. Who's a pretty has a lot of potential for a guard. But other than that, I feel like they just got role players, and I feel like they got Danny Avdia, they got Corey Crisper. They have all these guys that fill the roles, and I don't see them kind of long term commitment. I don't see the long term commitment to a Jordan Poole or a Kyle Kuzma. So I think what's best for Washington right now is to draft somebody who's going to have the ball in their hands, and that's Stephon Castle. At least he wants to have the ball in his hands. We've been hearing a lot that he wants to be a point guard in the league. And look, I'm a big fan of him right now, and I think that he can become a top guard in this league. A point guard, that remains to be seen, but I think in the NBA they do that all the time. Your best shooter, put him as your point guard. Your best scorer, put him as your point guard. Like put the ball in his hands, have a threat. And I feel like the Wizards, I know they have Tyus Jones as well, and again, all those veteran contracts that they have, I don't see them sticking around long term. So Stephon Castle at number two. The Rockets at number three is another very interesting scenario. They got so much young talent. They have a budding all-star in Alfred Şengün. They have one of the best small forwards, kind of young crop small forwards in the game at Jabari Parker, right? Is that his name? Jabari, yeah, Jabari Young, no, Jabari Parker, right? Anyways, all these colors, Jalen Green. So the Rockets also have Jalen Green on the roster, who was like a player of the month for the whole Western Conference at the end of last season when Alfred Şengün, got hurt. And then meanwhile, they also have veteran players like Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, right? They also have guys like that. So it's like, what do they actually need? Like what do they draft best player available who might take away minutes from some of your other previous draft picks? Or do you go with something that can complement this team? Because remember, they are trying to win now. The Rockets were in the race for the play-in last year, and I think next year they're going to want to be in that play-in. So what do? I think they draft a need. And if Alfred Şengün is going to be your center and he goes down, you need a backup. Or if you want to move Alfred Şengün to the four and you need someone in there to rebound and do the dirty work, it just makes too much sense for them to draft Donovan Clean. Now, I really like Donovan Clingan as a fit for the Spurs. Now, I know there's a lot of mixed reviews in the comments about just about every player in the comments. There's a lot of mixed reviews, so it's very interesting for me to read all those reviews. But I do feel like it might go down like this if they're just trying to be safe and draft someone that can help them now, and not really require the ball too much, not take away the ball from a Jalen Green or an Alfred Şengün, there to clean up the work, right? Do the dirty work. So for that puts us at number 4, San Antonio Spurs. Now again, I really don't know what the plan is, but at this point in this draft where you have Alex Sarr, Stephon Castle, Donovan Clingan off the board, um, this player falls right into your lap, and that's Zachary Ricochet, right? So he is an awesome fit, I think, for the Spurs. He can be a long-term piece too. Like if he just keeps developing and keeps playing with Wimby when they play for France, and he'll probably end up coming off the bench. I don't see him starting at this point. I could be wrong. They might slide some players around in that starting lineup and then bring him into the starting group, which I wouldn't mind. He's a great connector. I feel like he could be kind of like that Michael Porter Jr. connecting piece where he's really only there to do a few things. Now we need him to do those few things like exceptionally well. He needs to shoot the ball well. He needs to pass the ball into Wimby very well. He needs to defend very well, and he needs to be aggressive. He needs to kind of go after some boards and things like that. And I think he has all that potential to do that. So this is kind of like a both case scenario where we're drafting a need because he is a forward who's long, athletic, and can do a lot of things for us, which we could use. And he also fits the best player available, which I think he is here at number 4. Now that takes us to number 5 with Detroit. So Detroit, I see them taking Cody Williams. They just have, again, they're in such a weird spot in this draft where they have Cade Cunningham. I don't think they're going to want to get off of Cade. They have a bunch of young big men who I don't think they're going to want to draft a big man or anything like that. I feel like they need two things. They need shooters and they just need upside. They need upside. They have last season, the Detroit Pistons had the worst losing streak in NBA history. So where do you go from there? There's nowhere to go from there but up. And I think they need somebody with upside potential. I know pick 5 might be a little high for Cody Williams, but in terms of the Detroit Pistons, they need a guy who can just come in, be long, develop, and they need to minimize bust potential. And I think Cody Williams might be able to do all of those things for them. So an interesting kind of pick there at 5. That's where in this 1.0 draft, I am seeing them go. So all right, let's head over to pick number 6 through pick number 10. Pick number 6 by the Charlotte Hornets. They got LaMelo Ball, they got Brandon Miller, they got the big man from Duke a few years ago. They got a lot of nice young pieces on their team. So I still kind of feel like they're lacking structure on the court. I feel like they're still kind of lacking someone there to just make the right play, also like another connector piece. And for me, that's Reed Shepherd. I think Reed Shepherd is going to be able to get out and transition and play with LaMelo Ball and get a lot of shots up. I have a feeling that Reed Shepherd can come in and not make a bunch of boneheaded plays and get the ball to Brandon Miller, which we found out this past season is a very good option. So, a LaMelo, a Reed Shepherd, a Brandon Miller, I feel like the basketball on-court product just improves. It just gets better. And on the margins, right, it's not like off the charts going to get better. But I think it's more of a sure thing. If you're looking to get better next season, if you're the Charlotte Hornets, you go after someone like Reed Shepherd. Now that puts us in pick number 7, Portland. Again, last year drafted a point guard. They have a lot of great young guards on their roster. They traded for DeAndre Ayton. They have a lot of 3-and-D wings on that team too, like Um, they have the kid from Australia, Matisse Thybulle. Um, they have the one that got a huge contract. I'm blanking out on names right now, guys, but it's the guy who played for Denver, played for Detroit, played for a lot of teams. But they have another long 3 and D. It'll come to me in a little bit, but I still see them taking Matas Buzelis, who I think is probably at this point in the draft your highest upside swing. I think this is a guy that's going to come in, who's going to have to develop, who's going to have to go through his first 2 years in the summer league. He's going to have to earn his way onto the court. He's going to have to learn how to fit with players that are already kind of established in the NBA. But I think if those older players kind of take him under his wing, I mean, he might be, a top 3 option for Portland, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road. So I have them taking Matas Buzelis at number 7. Number 8, the Spurs. I mean, best player available right now in this draft for me is Rob Dillingham. And I really like Dillingham. I know everyone in the comments is dogging on the fact that I said he was a pretty good defender in college, which when I didn't see, like, I saw some college basketball, right? But when I'm looking at his highlights, I see the potential there to make certain reads, to be a good on-ball defender, to be able to get out in passing lanes. Now, maybe there's a lot of film out there too where he's getting lost or getting beat off the dribble, all that stuff. Maybe. But again, he's going to be playing with Wembanyama. You know what I mean? So I think at the point guard, can he come in and start day one? I don't think it's a Spurs thing to do. They probably bring him off the bench, let Trey Jones start for 20, 30 games, and then see if Rob Dillingham can earn that spot. But here at number 8, I have the Spurs taking him. So with the 2 lottery picks for the San Antonio Spurs in this draft, you walk away with Zachary Ricochet and Rob Dillingham. So y'all let me know what you think about that, and if any of these other players from 9 to 14 should be there at number 8. Number 9, this is kind of off the reservation a little bit. I have the Memphis Grizzlies, and I know this is piss a lot of people off. I have them taking Zach Edey, and a lot of people think Zach Edey is the best big man in basketball. Maybe, but really, there's only one reason. There's only one reason to draft Zach Edey, and his name is Victor Wembanyama. If you're Memphis, you need a big body to bang up with Victor Wembanyama. And if you're in that Southwest West Division, Houston, New Orleans, Dallas, if you're any of those teams, Memphis, Wemby is going to be a problem for you, for the next few years. So if I were you, I would just draft somebody to get in his way and try to make, Wemby's job a little bit harder than normal. And I think at this point in the draft, you just get Zach Edey out there to, foul him a couple times in the first half, a couple times in the second half, and you take his upside. Whatever else he can give you is just a plus. But really, he's there as a defensive anchor whenever you're going up against San Antonio, maybe in the playoffs over the next 10 years, right? So that's why you draft Zach Edey number 9 if you're Memphis. And then you get Utah drafting Dalton Connect at number 10. I really like Dalton Connect. I know you guys were talking about how he is athletic in the comments and how his measurements and everything. And same thing with Reed Shepherd. You guys, I mentioned that their athleticism limitations might hinder them in the draft. And I'm just like, they're different for both players. Reed Shepherd, I was talking about his wingspan. I kind of made a comment in there that he's 6'3" with a 6'3" wingspan. Guys, in the NBA, that is tough. Most of these NBA guards have above average wingspans. Like they're 6'3" with 6'8" wingspans and things like that. It's just it's ridiculous. So when you have short arms, I mean, you have to be a really smart player. Think of JJ Redick, right? He had a negative wingspan. One of the only like 2 or 3 players in the NBA to have like a negative wingspan that actually had a good career. And that was because he was an exceptional basketball player and knows his role and knows how to still play with his limitations. I think Reed Shepherd can do that. And I think Dalton Connect, he's an athlete. I'm not saying he's not an athlete, but again, this is the NBA. He can go drive in college basketball, drive through contact and finish at the rim with 2 or 3 people and lay it up. In the NBA, he might not even make it to the rim, or he's gonna meet a 7-footer, 2 7-footers at the basket when he gets there. So in other words, he needs to kind of slide into a different role. He needs to be somewhat of a 3-and-D type player, where he's kind of like a Doug McDermott. He's one of these guys that just know their roles, or the kid from Sacramento that I was talking about in the last episode. So anyways, he's got a good shot. He's gonna have to find it in the NBA where he fits. And so, I think Utah, that would be a pretty good option for him. He would be able to go to Utah, space the floor, onto a team that already has their number 1 guy right now, which is Lauri Markkanen. They already have a big guy in Kessler Walker. They have Keontae George at point. They have a lot of good pieces there already. So I think at pick 10, if you're Utah, it's not a bad look. So, all right, let's go ahead and go to pick number 11 through 14. Again, thank you guys for watching. This episode is powered by Cross Country Mortgage. I am a loan originator in Texas now. So if you're looking for a home or looking to invest in real estate, go ahead and click the link in below and set up an appointment with me and let's chat. All right, so pick number 11, Chicago. I have them taking a shooter that can really spread the floor for Kobe White. You never know what DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine's future is going to be in Chicago. I mean, I just don't see them being long-term fits right now, either of those guys. So I think in the draft, you know you're going to have Kobe White, and I think if you can draft somebody who's a efficient shooter, you do that and try to spread the floor and pick up the pace a little bit with Jacoby Walter. Number 12, I have OKC taking probably the next guy best available right now. Like Ron Holland probably easily could have gone 9 or 10. I just didn't think the fit was there. But with OKC, I think that it is a good fit with him. I just a guy that can come in and rebound and run the floor and just do the dirty work. Again, like not a great fit for a team like San Antonio, I feel like, because we have those guys already. I feel like OKC can use a guy like that coming off the bench during the regular season. And by the time they're going to be in the playoffs for a while now. But I think he's adaptable. He's moldable. I think he can probably find a way to play with Shea and play with Chet and Jalen Williams and all that and figure out a way how to make those guys their life easier. So I feel like Ron Holland is that guy. At pick 13, the Sacramento Kings are going to go with Nikola Topic. Now, Nikola Topic, he's been injured. He got injured again, and he's such a high prospect. He is one of the top guards ranked in this draft. So it's I kind of don't want to keep him out of the lottery, even though you never know. I wouldn't be surprised if he falls out of like the top 15. But I feel like a team like Sacramento, who really has nothing to gain, nothing to lose at pick here 13. I think they can draft Nikola Topic, give him a year or two to rehab before he actually gets on the floor. And by the time that comes around where he is rehabilitated and ready, you never know what the team is going to look like. I think he's a good backup guard to have that can play with the team that they have now. So I think like if the team kind of resembles itself as it is currently constructed, I think Nikola Topic can come in kind of as a long-term developmental piece unless he gets healthy. And I'm not too sure what his injury prognosis is and how long it's going to take. But I mean, if he can come in next year or the year after and just give them a different look, give them a high IQ player, not bad to have. And then you have Portland again with the number 14th pick in the lottery. So second pick for Portland. Again, same kind of situation, but this pick, I have them taking Jane Solomon. And I know a lot of Spurs fans are really high on Salon also. I don't say his name, Salon. But when I look at him and I look at his tape, he's raw. Like he needs work. Um, and it's what he needs isn't like physical attributes. He's athletic, he can rebound, but there's like a jitteriness. There's kind of like a stiffness to his game where I'm not too sure if the IQ is there and the familiarity in the game is there where he can really kind of control what he's doing out there. I feel like he's kind of just out there causing havoc, and which is great. Maybe he ends up being a nice 3-and-D type player. But we'll have to wait and see at pick 14 in this year's draft. So again, this episode is powered by Cross Country Mortgage. If you're home shopping or looking to invest in real estate, you can click the link in the description below, get pre-qualified, or figure out your home buying power today. And I will help you figure out the road to get you into your new home. If you live here in Texas, go ahead and let me know. Thank you guys for watching. Again, Mock Draft 1.0. This is kind of my first analysis of how this might play out. Now, I'm still kind of wondering if the teams that own these picks are going to stay there. Like I can easily see Atlanta doing something with the number 1 pick. I can see Portland doing something with their picks. I can see a lot of teams moving up 2 spots, down 2 or 3 spots, because again, like this draft is not filled with heavy hitters, at least in this top lottery range. It's already kind of getting slim at 13, 14. So if you're picking 15 through 30, it's like, man, like you're really kind of banking on a G League project, a draft and stash in Europe or something like that. There might be players in there that can come in and provide a role, fill a role for you, but that's about it. I mean, I don't know where Bronny James is going to get drafted. I know that the people were talking about Lakers and Spurs being possible fits. I mean, I don't know. Y'all let me know what you think about Bronny James in the draft as well. Spurs have 2 second-round picks, so you never know. So we'll find out how this goes pretty soon. We'll keep our ears to the ground and see if there's any trades or anything like that coming in the future. And I will try to get another mock draft out to you guys in the near future. So I've been Rob Trejo Jr. Thank you for watching. Adios, amigos.